There was a man in the corner of the room, but no one else could see him. That's what 6-year-old Jamie whispered one morning, his voice barely above a breath, eyes wide, fixed on something behind his mother. Something that wasn't there, or so she thought. It started like any other Tuesday: cold cereal, a spilled cup of juice, the usual morning chaos in the little blue house on Maple Drive. But when Sarah opened Jamie's backpack to check his homework folder, her hands froze. Inside was a drawing, childish lines, crayons, but unmistakable. A tall man, dressed in black, with no face. He stood beside a small boy, Jamie, and behind them, their house. The drawing was crude, sure, but detailed in a strange way. The windows had the same cracks, the same peeling paint. Even the crooked mailbox was there. But it wasn't the house or even the boy that made Sarah's heart stutter. It was the man, because she recognized that shape, that silhouette. Something about it pulled at a place in her mind she had buried 15 years ago, to be exact. She called Jamie over, voice trembling. "Sweetie, who's this man?" Jamie didn't answer right away. He glanced over his shoulder, then leaned in and whispered, "He watches me sleep." Sarah laughed nervously, brushing it off as imagination. A phase. Kids see shadows and turn them into monsters, right? But that night, Jamie woke up screaming, and it wouldn't be the last time. The dreams came next, vivid, terrifying. He would cry about being followed, about whispering voices, about the man with no eyes. He began drawing him in everything, on napkins, on the walls, even in the fog on the bathroom mirror. Sarah grew desperate. She stopped sleeping, started watching the baby monitor like a hawk, and then, one night, she saw it. A flicker. Just for a second. The monitor glitched. Static burst through the speakers, and a shape moved across the screen. Tall, thin, right past Jamie's bed. She ran upstairs so fast she nearly tripped. Jamie was curled in the corner, clutching his blanket, pointing to the window. "He's outside now," he whispered. "He doesn't like you." Sarah closed the blinds, locked every door, but the fear crept in like cold air. It wasn't just Jamie's mind unraveling anymore, it was hers too. She turned to professionals, a child psychologist, therapists. No one had answers. They called it night terrors, stress, maybe a reaction to the divorce, but Sarah knew it was more. She began digging, searching through boxes in the attic, old photos, documents. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, till she found the newspaper clipping, yellowed, fragile. "Local man missing after suspicious fire." The name hit her like a punch. Daniel Carter, her old neighbor. 15 years ago, before she left town, before the marriage, before Jamie. She remembered him now. Quiet, strange, always watching from his porch. He lived alone. People whispered about him, said he heard voices. The fire happened weeks after she moved away. No body was ever found. Sarah never thought about it again, till now. The shape in Jamie's drawings, it looked like Daniel. She tried to shake the thought. It couldn't be. Jamie didn't know him, never met him, never even heard his name. And yet, when she showed Jamie the photo from the article, he nodded slowly. "That's him." Sarah dropped the photo. How? She took Jamie and fled to her sister's house 2 towns over. A fresh start. Just for a few weeks until she could think straight. But the drawings didn't stop. Jamie said the man followed them, that he was angry now, that he wanted something. Sarah didn't believe in ghosts, didn't want to. But reality was bending in ways she couldn't explain. Lights flickering, doors creaking open, cold spots in the hallway. And Jamie, he was changing, quieter, distant. Sometimes she'd catch him just staring at the wall for hours. Once, she heard him whispering. When she leaned in, he was saying the same sentence over and over. "He's sorry, but he can't leave until I show her." Show her what? That night, Sarah dreamt of fire, flames licking up the walls, screams in the dark, a man's voice, low and broken, whispering her name. She woke up gasping, and Jamie was standing at her bedside. "Mommy," he said softly. "He says you were there that night." The blood drained from her face. Was she? The memory came like a flash of lightning, blinding, sudden. She was 16, running through the woods behind her house, laughing. Her friend dared her to sneak up to the old man's porch. It was supposed to be a prank. They threw rocks at his windows, banged on his door. He came out yelling, angry. They ran, laughing. They didn't know he kept candles lit all around his home. That one got knocked over, that by the time he tried to put it out, it was already too late. She had forgotten, or she had chosen to forget. Now the past was bleeding into the present, and Jamie was caught in the middle. She needed answers, so she returned. To the town, to Maple Drive, to the place where it all began. The house was gone, burned to the ground all those years ago. Just an empty lot now, fenced off, forgotten. But as she stood there, wind rustling the tall grass, she heard it. Jamie's voice. Over. Here, Mommy. He was by the tree line, pointing at something in the dirt, an old tin box. Inside, a letter, burned at the edges, scrawled in shaky handwriting. To whoever finds this, I didn't mean to scare anyone. I was just lonely. I saw the kids laughing and I missed mine. They're gone now. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. Sarah couldn't breathe. The guilt crashed into her like a wave. She never told anyone what happened that night, not even herself. And now it was unraveling. Jamie looked up at her. He forgives you, but he needs you to say it. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. And then the wind stopped. The air grew still. For the first time in weeks, Jamie smiled. And that night, he slept peacefully. No drawings, no voices, just silence. But just as Sarah began to believe it was over, she found a new picture tucked under Jamie's pillow, a new house, a new boy, and in the corner, the man in black, still watching, still waiting. Sarah stared at the new drawing for hours. This one was different. Same figure in black, same empty face, but now he wasn't beside Jamie. He was behind another child, a boy with short blonde hair, freckles, big blue eyes, someone Sarah didn't recognize. She flipped the paper over, hoping for a clue, a name, a note, but there was nothing. Just a single date scribbled in the corner. May 12th, tomorrow. Her chest tightened. She asked Jamie gently, "Who's this, sweetie?" He didn't look up from his cereal, just kept chewing, slowly, deliberately. That's Caleb. He's next. The spoon slipped from her hand. Next for what? Jamie finally met her eyes. To remember. Sarah felt the chill return, that invisible frost that crept in and sat heavy on her shoulders. Like the past wasn't done with her yet, like it had found a voice in her son and now it was reaching for more. She called the school that morning, asked if there was a Caleb in Jamie's class. There was. Caleb Monroe, 6 years old, lived just a few streets over, friendly, quiet. Nothing unusual until, the secretary said with hesitation, he stopped showing up 3 days ago. No notice, no call. Sarah's mouth went dry. She hung up without a word and drove. Her fingers gripped the wheel too tightly. Her eyes kept flicking to the rear-view mirror, half expecting to see something sitting in the back seat, a shape, a shadow, anything. When she arrived at the Monroe house, it was oddly quiet. The blinds were drawn. The porch light was still on, even in broad daylight. She knocked 3 times. No answer. She tried again, called out. Still nothing. But then she saw it. A drawing, taped to the inside of the window. A crayon sketch of a tall black figure. No face. Same as Jamie's. Identical. Her heart thundered in her chest. She reached for her phone. Called the number listed for the Monroes. A woman picked up, her voice trembling. Hello? Hi, this is Sarah. My son Jamie goes to school with Caleb and... The woman cut her off. He's not sleeping, she said. He won't talk. He just keeps drawing that thing. We thought it was just nightmares, but... Her voice cracked. He says there's a man in his closet, that he talks to him, that he knows things about our house that no one else could know. Sarah swallowed hard. Has he said anything about me? Or Jamie? Silence. Then softly. He said you were the reason it started again. Sarah drove home in a daze. Everything was unraveling faster than she could hold it together. And Jamie. He was changing more each day, speaking in riddles. waking up in strange places. Once she found him in the basement, sitting in total darkness whispering, "He's not mad anymore, just tired." She didn't know what that meant, didn't want to, but she knew one thing. The man was no longer just a ghost. He was a thread, and every memory they pulled unraveled something bigger, something older. She needed help, so she went to the last person she ever wanted to see. Her father. They hadn't spoken in years, not since the day she left this town for good. But he was the only one who might know something, because he'd been there that night. Night Daniel Carter vanished. His house was just as she remembered it. Old wood, smell of tobacco, everything yellowed with time. He opened the door and frowned. "You look like hell." "Hi, Dad," she whispered. "I need to talk." They sat in the kitchen. No small talk, no catching up, just silence, till she pulled the drawing from her bag and placed it on the table. His face went pale. "Where did you get this?" "Jamie drew it." He stared at it for a long time. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his glass. "You know I saw him that night, right?" he said. "Daniel, I saw him running out of that house, clothes on fire, screaming." Sarah blinked. "No one said he got out. No one wanted to say it. We were all afraid. It was easier to call it an accident. But I saw him. I heard him." She felt the air leave her lungs. Her father nodded slowly. He wasn't just some crazy old man. He believed things lived in that house. Shadows, spirits. He said they talked to him through dreams, that they showed him what people were hiding. Sarah clutched the drawing. "He's doing the same to Jamie." Her father looked at her, eyes hard. "Then you better pray Jamie listens, because once those things start whispering, they don't stop until they've told their story." That night, Jamie didn't eat dinner, didn't speak, just stared at the fireplace. And when Sarah finally coaxed him into bed, he looked up at her, voice soft and strange. "He says Caleb remembered something, but now he's scared. He doesn't want to help anymore." Sarah felt her throat tighten. "Help with what?" Jamie blinked slowly. "Help find the last one." She didn't sleep. Instead, she sat in the living room, staring at the baby monitor feed again. Even though Jamie was 6 now, even though it was years too old to still be in use, but it was the only thing that made her feel like she could still see something. And then around 2:13 a.m., the screen flickered, just once, and a shape appeared, not a man this time, a child, standing at the edge of Jamie's bed. She raced upstairs, heart pounding, but when she opened the door, Jamie was alone, and on the wall, drawn in thick black crayon, was a word, buried. She didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But Jamie was waking up, and his first words chilled her to the bone. "Mom, he says it's your turn to remember now." She didn't want to remember, not really. But once you open the door to the past, it doesn't close quietly. The word on the wall haunted her all morning. Buried, not written like a child would. Sharp, heavy, as if someone had carved it with anger. She tried to scrub it off, but it wouldn't fade, not completely. The crayon seemed to sink into the wall, like the word wanted to stay, like it needed to be there. Jamie sat quietly at the table, watching. His spoon moved in slow, measured circles in his cereal. He hadn't taken a bite. Sarah knelt in front of him, took his hand. "Jamie, what do you mean?" "It's my turn to remember." He blinked once, twice, then leaned in, whispering, "There's someone else." She felt it in her chest, that tight pull of dread. Jamie looked toward the window. She didn't mean to hurt him either. Sarah followed his gaze. Outside, across the street, was the old Roberts house. Empty, run down, windows boarded. It had been abandoned since before Jamie was born. Sarah hadn't thought about it in years. But now, the pieces were beginning to align. Back when she was 16, there had been a girl, Lydia Roberts, a year younger, soft-spoken, odd. People made fun of her, Sarah included. Just a little, just jokes. But the last time anyone saw Lydia, she'd been crying behind the school. Gym, and then she vanished. No one talked about it much. Her parents left town 2 weeks later. The case went cold. The town forgot. But now, Sarah couldn't. She walked across the street before she had time to talk herself out of it. The front gate creaked like it hadn't moved in a decade. The air felt heavier here, the kind of stillness that wasn't natural. She climbed the porch steps, heart pounding in her ears. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Cobwebs stretched across the corners, furniture still in place, frozen in time, cups on the table, a coat still hanging by the door. It was like someone had just left and never came back. She stepped deeper into the house, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of dust. Her breath caught when she saw the living room wall. More drawings, faded, rotted, paper peeling away, but the same figure again and again, tall, black, watching. She reached out, then stopped. There was something underneath one of the drawings, a piece of newspaper yellowed with age. She carefully peeled it away. Local girl still missing. Police. Urge anyone with information on Lydia Roberts to come forward. There was a picture, and Sarah remembered the eyes. So full of hurt. Jamie hadn't been born when this happened. How could he know? She heard something behind her. A creak, a breath, a whisper. Help me. Sarah spun, but the house was empty. Her skin crawled. She turned to leave, and that's when she saw it. In the hallway mirror, a second reflection. Not hers, not Jamie's. A girl, standing just behind her. She didn't scream. She couldn't. She just ran. Back home, breath ragged, hands shaking, slamming. The door behind her like it would stop the memories from chasing her down. Jamie was sitting in the hallway waiting. She says she remembers now. He said softly, but it hurts. Sarah collapsed beside him. Who, Jamie? Who's talking to you? He looked down at the floor. Lydia. The name felt like ice down her spine. She was scared, Jamie continued. She tried to tell someone, but no one listened. He told her to be quiet, so she stayed quiet forever. Sarah wanted to scream, but there was only one thought now. Who was he? The man, not the ghost, not the shadow, the real one. The one Lydia feared. The one Daniel saw. The one tying all of this together. She needed answers, and there was only one place left to go. Back to the school. The records office was closed, but the secretary, an old friend of Sarah's, let her in. Just for a minute, Sarah searched the files from 15 years ago. Students, faculty, staff, looking for a pattern, a name, a connection. And then she saw it. A file labeled Incident Report, April 14th. Her hands trembled as she pulled it out. It was about a substitute teacher. Mr. Harland reported inappropriate behavior never confirmed. Investigation closed due to lack of evidence. Student moved away shortly after. The student's name? Lydia Roberts. Sarah's pulse roared in her ears. She had forgotten about him. He was only there for a week. A tall, quiet man in black, always smiling, always watching. No one knew where he came from, and then he vanished. Just like Lydia. She ran, home, frantic. Jamie was in the backyard, standing beneath the old maple tree. His eyes were closed, his lips moving silently. Sarah ran to him, shook his shoulders. Jamie, what are you doing? He opened his eyes. He's here. Who? Jamie looked past her and smiled. Mr. Harland. The air went cold. Behind her, the branches creaked, the shadows twisted, and for the first time she saw him. Not a ghost, not a drawing. A man. Pale, still, wearing the same black coat. No face, just darkness where it should have been. Sarah stepped in front of Jamie. Her voice cracked. What do you want? The man tilted his head, slowly, as if remembering. And then he spoke, but not with a voice, with 1,000 whispers, all at once. You left her. Sarah's knees buckled. You watched her cry and laughed. You turned away. And when she vanished, you said nothing. Jamie's hand slipped into hers. She forgives you, he said. But he doesn't. The ground beneath them seemed to tremble. Leaves rustled, though there was no wind. Sarah felt her own voice rising, shaking, breaking. I was a kid. I didn't know. I didn't mean to hurt her. The man didn't move, just watched. and slowly began to fade. The edges of his body unraveled like smoke, till all that was left was the silence and the smell of ash. Jamie looked up at her. She's gone now. But he's not. Sarah stared at the empty space beneath the tree and felt the truth settle into her bones. This wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, Jamie didn't speak. He just sat at the kitchen table, eyes locked on something no one else could see. A silent conversation playing out in a language Sarah couldn't understand. His fingers moved slowly along the rim of his glass again and again, tracing a perfect circle. She didn't ask him questions anymore. Not because she didn't want to know, but because she was terrified of the answers. The tree in the backyard looked different now. Taller, thicker, as if it had fed on what happened the night before. The bark blackened near the base like something had burned there long ago and never fully healed. And then, the smell. Ash. Earth. Old iron. It clung to Jamie's clothes, to his skin. She scrubbed and it never left. She called in, sick to work, kept Jamie home from school. They didn't talk, just drifted through the house like ghosts in their own story, till the doorbell rang. She froze. Whoever it was, they were standing too still. No movement behind the glass, just a shadow cast long across the porch. She opened the door slowly. It was Caleb's mother. Eyes hollow, hair wild. Her hands trembled as she clutched something close to her chest. "I think you need to see this." She stepped inside without waiting, set the object down on the table. It was a shoebox. The cardboard warped with water damage, smelled of mildew. The top peeled open slowly. And inside, drawings, dozens, all from Caleb, the same figure over and over again. The man in black, sometimes with Lydia, sometimes with Jamie, sometimes with Sarah. Each picture more twisted than the last, until the final one, a crude sketch of a large tree. Beneath it, a shape, a small curled-up body, and beside it, in red crayon, "She's still there." Sarah backed away. No, some sick game. He's just a kid. He doesn't know." But the woman wasn't listening. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Caleb hasn't spoken in days. He just points to the tree and cries. He says she's waiting, that the others won't rest until she's found." Sarah turned to Jamie. His eyes were wet. "She doesn't like being forgotten," he whispered. "She says it hurts." And suddenly, Sarah remembered. Not just the teasing, not just the laughter. She remembered the dare. Then they made Lydia go into the woods behind the school, alone, after dark, just to prove she wasn't a coward. Sarah never waited to see if she came back. None of them did. She had buried that memory so deep, she almost believed it never happened. But Lydia hadn't, and neither had he. That night, long after the world had gone quiet, Sarah crept outside with a flashlight in hand. Jamie was already waiting by the tree. No coat, no shoes. He just pointed. "There," he said. Sarah dropped to her knees and began to dig. At first it was just dirt, then rocks, then something else. Fabric, a tattered piece of cloth stained and brittle. Her breath caught, and just beneath it, bone, small, fragile, human. She screamed, but Jamie didn't flinch. "She was never lost," he said. "Just waiting to be seen." Next day's blurred. Police, reporters, crime scene tape curling in the wind. They confirmed it. Human remains. Likely Lydia's. The town recoiled in horror. But no one asked Sarah how they found the body. No one questioned the boy who led them there. Because how do you explain that to people who don't believe in ghosts? How do you explain a man who walks through forgotten memories like doors? How do you explain Jamie? They ruled it an accident, a tragic childhood dare gone wrong. No suspects, no charges. But Sarah knew better, because it wasn't over. Not even close. A week later, Jamie woke up screaming. Said the man had brought someone else, someone who remembered things they weren't supposed to. Sarah asked who. He wouldn't answer. He just kept drawing. And the next picture, it was Sarah, alone, standing at the edge of a lake, looking down at something floating just below the surface. And in the corner, a name she hadn't heard in years. Rachel. Sarah dropped the paper like it burned her. Rachel was her cousin. Gone. 20 years now, they said she drowned, but Sarah never believed that. And now, Jamie was drawing her too. Sarah sat on the floor, shaking, unable to breathe. What does he want from me? Jamie stared at her, and for the first time, his voice sounded older, colder. Wants you to see everything. She shook her head. No, I can't. But Jamie didn't blink. He's not asking. That night Sarah dreamed of water. Dark, cold, thick like syrup. Hands reaching up from the deep, pulling her down. Whispering in voices that sounded like children, she woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. And beside her on the pillow, a drawing, not one Jamie had made. The lines were too clean, too sharp. It was the lake, and in the center, a girl's face, mouth open, eyes staring up from the black. Rachel. Sarah clutched the sheet to her chest, trying to stay grounded, trying to breathe. But it was clear now. Jamie had opened something, and whatever it wasn't just haunting them. It was using him. She sat with Jamie in the morning light, holding his small hand in hers. His voice was faint. There's one more. Then he'll stop. Who? Jamie looked up. You. The word struck like lightning. Her stomach dropped. No. No, please. He hugged her tightly, small arms wrapped around her neck. He says if you tell the truth, he'll let me go. Sarah broke. Everything. Every secret. Every silence. Every laugh that covered cruelty. Every look away. Came crashing back at once. And in the deafening quiet that followed, she remembered. The woods. The laughter. The dares whispered between breaths of stolen vodka. She remembered Rachel's face. Uncertain. Pale. Asking if it was safe. And Sarah, nodding, telling her it was just a game. She remembered the lake, still and silent. How Rachel walked toward the edge, trembling. How they all stood back, watching. Some egged her on. Some stayed quiet. Sarah was one of the quiet ones. The ones who watched her slip, fall, scream, and didn't move. No one called for help. They waited until the surface stilled, then ran. No one spoke of it again. The police said it was a tragic accident, the body never found. A current must have taken her. But Sarah knew. They had buried her in silence, and now he wanted her to dig it back up. That night, Sarah sat alone, in Jamie's room. He was asleep, but his hands twitched against the blanket, like he was pulling something toward him, or trying to push something away. Beside the bed was another drawing. She hesitated, then picked it up. It was the lake again. And something else. A figure standing on the shore. Her, and behind her, the man. Only now his face was visible. It wasn't blank anymore, it was hers. Sarah dropped the paper. Her breath came in gasps. And then she understood. He wasn't a man. Not really. Not anymore. He was memory. Guilt. Every secret too ugly to say out loud. He was them. All of them. The ones who laughed. The ones who watched. The ones who forgot. He was what came back when silence lasted too long. He was what they deserved. And Jamie was just the doorway. Sarah stood, hands shaking, walked outside, barefoot on the cold grass. The moon was low. The wind whispered like voices through the trees. She made her way to the lake. The water looked black in the dark. Still, waiting. She stepped to the edge. I'm here, she whispered. I remember. I see it all now. The water rippled, and then something rose. Not a body, not a ghost, a shape. Shadow wrapped in shadow, eyes like hollow lanterns, arms outstretched, fingers too long, but it didn't come for her. It stepped beside her and waited. Sarah turned. Behind her stood Rachel, soaked, silent, beautiful, in the way grief is beautiful when it finally breaks free. I'm sorry, Sarah said. I should have helped you. I should have said something. I should have. Rachel didn't move, but her eyes softened, and then she stepped into the shadow of the man. Together, they sank into the lake. No splash, no sound, just stillness. And then a whisper behind her. Mom. Sarah turned. Jamie stood on the path, alone, awake. His eyes were clear. Is it over? He asked. She didn't know, but she nodded anyway, held him close. Because in that moment, the air felt lighter, and the silence didn't hurt. They walked home in the dark, the stars above them, distant and quiet. Jamie didn't draw anymore after that. He went back to being a regular boy, laughed again, slept through the night. But sometimes when Sarah closed her eyes, she'd see the tree, or the lake, or the man, waiting in places you weren't supposed to look too closely. Because some memories don't die, they wait, and sometimes they come back wearing your face.